Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, or if you spent time with me here before, welcome back. I'm Amy, and we are making a really comfy barbecue pulled pork feast with homemade hamburger buns and everything, and all of it completely from scratch, plus a little last minute add-on that I didn't originally plan for, but it turned out perfect. So let's get cooking. This recipe can be made in a Dutch oven or in a slow cooker. If you try this in a Dutch oven like I'm doing here, just watch the video completely in order and everything will turn out just right. But if you make this in a slow cooker, you're going to want to reference the recipe I linked in the description for the instructions. I like making this in a Dutch oven since it only takes about 3 hours instead of 10 hours. Alright, let's get to making these buns. This is my absolute favorite recipe for hamburger buns. They are soft and fluffy with a nice thin crust and a mild flavor that does not overpower whatever you want to put in your sandwich. But they do need time to rise, so either make these the day before or start them about 3 hours before dinner to account for the rise time. To your stand mixer bowl, add 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 2.25 teaspoons or 1 packet of instant yeast, and give all this a little whisk just to mix these up together. Now we're going to add our wet ingredients. We need 1 cup of warm water, and we want it between 105 and 110 Fahrenheit for the yeast to be happy. We need 1 room temperature egg and 3 tablespoons of room temperature or softened butter. We want room temperature butter so it mixes into the dough fully and doesn't stay in butter chunks. We want soft and fluffy, not flaky. Using a spatula, mix this all up a little by hand before we get to the mixer. It doesn't need to be fully combined, just scraped off the sides and roughly mixed, kind of like this. You can see it is nowhere near done, just kind of really roughly in a lump. Now for the mixer. Using the dough hook attachment, mix this on a low speed for about 5 minutes until you get a really elasticy type of dough. You may need to add up to 6 tablespoons of additional flour to get it to come together correctly, but this will still be sticky and loose at the end. I added about 4 tablespoons to mine, but yours could vary. You don't want to add more than 6 tablespoons though, because we want our buns to be light and fluffy. This is what my dough looked like at the end of 5 minutes, which is what we're looking for. Now grab another bowl and make sure it's a pretty big bowl since this needs to double in size, and coat your bowl with oil. You can do this by hand like I'm doing here, or just use one of those oil sprays. Get your dough into the bowl, and I had to use a spatula to get it into this bowl because this is some sticky dough. Make this into a rough ball and roll it around in the dough so the dough is nicely coated with that oil. Cover this with some plastic wrap, but make sure to put some oil on the wrap because if this dough touches an unoiled piece of plastic wrap, you're never going to get it all off. Put this to the side and let it proof until it doubles in size, which could take about an hour to an hour and a half. Alright, now let's get this pork ready for the oven because we want this roast to become some tasty, seasoned, shreddable goodness. To start, I have a 7-pound pork butt roast here, and we're going to make a dry rub for it. To a bowl, add 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of paprika, and I'm using smoked paprika for that awesome smoky flavor, a tablespoon of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 2 teaspoons of mustard powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin, a tablespoon of salt, and a teaspoon of black pepper, although I'm eyeballing this since my pepper is all in peppercorn form. We're going to mix this all up, and you can see I started with a whisk, but the brown sugar was being stubborn and clumpy, so I ended up just using my clean hands to break apart any clumps and get this rub all mixed up. Little clumps are perfectly fine, but I didn't want big chunks of sugar in what should be a powder. Next, we take our roast and rub this seasoning mix all over it, top, sides, bottom, everywhere. And you want to use all of the mix, nothing left over, so just keep on going until it's gone. When that is done, this roast will go into the Dutch oven, and I also poured any remaining seasoning mix from the pan onto the pork because I don't want to lose any of that really yummy flavor. And now comes our secret ingredient, beer. Pour 1 cup of your favorite beer over the pork. Now we're going to put the lid on and get this in the oven at 350 Fahrenheit until this is cooked through and shreddable. For me, this took about 2.5 to 3 hours. You want the rack on the lowest setting in the oven because we'll also be baking the buns, and we're going to need room at the top for those a little later. Okay, with the pork in the oven, we are ready to keep going on the buns. Start by flouring a work surface, and here is that beautiful dough. Take that gorgeous floofy dough, punch it a few times so it deflates, and then turn your no longer floofy dough onto your floured surface. If you're going exactly by the recipe I linked in the description, you want to cut this dough into 10 roughly equal pieces. Me, I am cutting this into 8 pieces because I like big buns, and I cannot lie. Anyway, cut this into 8 or 10 pieces and make each piece into a ball. You want to pinch the bottom together well so it doesn't come apart, and roll it like I'm doing on your work surface so it creates some tension in the top of the dough ball. As you make your dough balls, place them on a parchment lined baking sheet and make sure to leave some space in between these things because these are going to get big. The next step is to gently press these into what looks more like a patty and less like a ball. We want our buns to be nice and flat on the bottom but round on the top, and by doing this, the buns will have the right shape as they rise again. When all the dough balls have now become dough patties, cover this baking sheet with another baking sheet like this, and set these to the side until they double or even triple in size. For me, this took about an hour for the dough to become these awesome monstrosities right here. Holy crap, those are some buns. And we are almost there. We want these to get nice and golden, so grab an egg, add a teaspoon to a tablespoon of water to thin it out a little, whisk that all up and give these buns a nice egg wash. But be careful though, because these buns are very soft and you can deflate them if you're too heavy-handed. Just gently brush them all over with the egg wash until they're nice and shiny like this. Also, turn your oven up to 375 for this part. The pork won't mind a few minutes of a slightly higher temp. Okay, now this part is optional. The last step before baking is to sprinkle sesame seeds all over the buns. But if you don't like sesame seeds or you can't eat them, just leave them off. But if you love them, then go crazy. These need to bake at 375, and I baked mine for 14 minutes, but your mileage may vary a little depending on your oven. And here they are. Gigantic, beautifully golden hamburger buns. Now, no matter how much you want to, let these cool completely before cutting into them so the inside is perfect. And let me tell you, the inside of these, the crumb, it's just so perfect. All right, buns done. Now we need barbecue sauce because you just can't have barbecue pulled pork without barbecue sauce. So to a medium saucepan, we're gonna add 1 cup of apple cider vinegar and 1 cup of beer. Now we need 3 cups of ketchup, and I'm using Simply Heinz here, but you can use whatever ketchup is your favorite. You can also use your own homemade ketchup if you have that on hand. Stay tuned in the future because I'm totally gonna try that, by the way. We need 4 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, 2 teaspoons of salt, 3 teaspoons of garlic powder, 4 teaspoons of mustard powder, and either a little Tabasco or some cayenne pepper if you like a little kick to your barbecue. We also need 3 tablespoons of molasses, and you want the regular unsulfured molasses, not the blackstrap. Lastly, 2 teaspoons of black pepper, and give this all a really good stir. Bring this to a simmer over medium heat, and then remember that we didn't add the most necessary ingredient to any barbecue sauce recipe, the brown sugar. So add 2/3 of a cup of brown sugar and stir that all up again. Now this is gonna simmer until it has reduced into a thicker sauce-like consistency, which will take about 45 minutes. Make sure to stir it periodically though, because it can start to stick to the bottom of the pan, mostly because of the sugar content. When it's reduced to a thicker consistency and is more like a sauce and less like a soup, remove it from the heat and then just let this sit to the side until the pork is ready. While we're simmering down the sauce, make sure to check the pork's temperature occasionally until it is all cooked through and it can be shredded. For me, this took 2.5, close to 3 hours. And that pork looks amazing, doesn't it? Okay, so now we're gonna get this gargantuan chunk of pork out of the Dutch oven without any catastrophes, and we wanna shred this up. It can be larger chunks or really small shreds, however you like your pulled pork to be. And when you're done with that, it is time to add our awesome homemade barbecue sauce. Just spoon it over, stir it up until you're happy with the ratio of sauce to meat, and your pulled pork is ready. Wow, that looks delicious, and my kitchen smells so good. Okay, so normally we'd be eating at this point, but this is also the point where my husband came in the kitchen and said, you know, steak fries would be really good with this. We should make some steak fries. That's because he does not know that to make proper steak fries, it means soaking the potatoes for at least an hour, making a seasoned batter, double frying, the whole 9 yards. But he was totally right, and I'm kicking myself for not thinking of that. So I grabbed a few potatoes and tried to figure out how to make the quickest, cheatingest steak fries I've ever tried to make. First, I cut the potatoes into that signature steak fry wedge shape, and then I grabbed some paper towels to soak up any residual liquid from the potatoes because wet potatoes going into oil can be a little scary. Then I threw them into a bowl, and now we're adding our spices. We've got the usual offenders here, some seasoned salt like Lowry's, garlic powder, onion powder, smoked paprika because it always has to be smoked paprika, some chili powder, and then some corn starch to give the fries a little crispy coating when I fry them. I tossed the fries with the spices and then added a little oil to get everything moving around well. I used avocado oil and just kept going until the fries all had a nice little spice coating. While I was doing that, I was heating up some oil in a stainless steel pan until it was nice and shimmery between 350 and 375 degrees. I added my seasoned potato wedges into the oil, and we're gonna let these fry up. I'm also grabbing what is probably the most useful kitchen utensil I have, my fish spatula. Seriously, I use this thing for almost everything. So anyway, just give these a couple minutes in the oil, flip them over so both sides get nice and browned. When they're nice and golden brown, pull them out and put them on a wire rack to drip or some paper towels to soak up the extra oil. Okay, so now we are ready to eat. Look at that bun. That interior crumb is so soft and fluffy, it's just perfect. I did sprinkle a little extra coarse kosher salt on the fries and spooned up some of that excellent homemade barbecue sauce in little cups for dipping. You should pile that pork as high as you want because pulled pork sandwiches are supposed to be messy. Now, traditionally, you would eat this with coleslaw as a veggie, but I hate it, so we're not including coleslaw. But even without it, look at that amazingness. The fries turned out amazing, which was awesome. They were soft on the inside, crispy on the outside, perfect side for these sandwiches. See, he was right. This needed fries. And those burger buns, my favorite. Insane how great those are. Thank you so much for watching my video this week. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you enjoyed this video. Check out my exploration series every Wednesday, where we pick a familiar favorite and explore some different versions of it from around the world. We're doing pizza right now, and this week we are heading to Sicily. Stay tuned for more cozy, homemade, home-cooked goodies every Sunday. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you back here next Sunday. Bye!